is Mason, and this is Mason Zero ASMR. A lot of you have been asking for my Narset Enlightened Master Commander deck. I've mentioned it a few times, and it hasn't really been ready enough for me to want to show it. And it's still not finished. It's always in a state of being changed. So, what it looks like today, it might not look like a week from now. But for the most part, all the cards are exactly how they should be, and nothing will be added. So, let's go through it. First of all, we have the Commander, Narset Enlightened Master, for 3 generic, 1 blue, 1 red, and 1 white, so 6 mana total. We get a legendary creature, Human Monk. She is a 3/2 first strike and hexproof. And what the deck is built around is her ability. Whenever she attacks, you exile the top 4 cards of your library. Until end of turn, you may cast non-creature spells, or non-creature cards exiled with Narset this turn, without paying their mana costs. Now there is one thing interesting here. I'm surprised it doesn't say you may cast non-creature spells. It says cards. I actually had to double check to see if that included lands. But of course it says cast. You don't cast lands. But I just thought it was kind of strange, since a lot of other cards printed in the block, in this block, especially cards with prowess and such, said non-creature spell. And this says non-creature card. It's interesting. Although, God, just kidding. Yeah, whatever. Point is, here's Narset, and she's awesome. So, that's our commander. So, as you can imagine, we don't want very many creatures. Everyone that I've seen with a Narset deck seems to run something completely different. A lot of people will say to run 0 creatures. I run 5 that are mostly for utility and making Narset's ability even better. The first one we have is Niv-Mizzet the Firemind. There's a fair amount of card draw in this deck, a little bit, so his ability to deal damage when you draw a card is relevant. He's also a good blocker, because he's a flying 4/4. So, he's good to have around. I like him. Originally, my commander deck was a blue-red, with him as the commander. It's come a long way. Then we have Arcanus, the Omnipotent. Sorry, thirsty. Drinking a Mountain Dew. Not sponsored. Mountain Dew, hit me up. Hashtag do the do. Anyways, Arcanus, the Omnipotent. Wow, I can't say that. Omnipotent. There we go. Is a 3/4 for 6 that we can tap to draw 3 cards, which of course goes well with Niv-Mizzet. He also has protection. You can return him to your hand, but we mostly have him for the card draw. Then we have Milik Izzet Paragon, the special promo version, of course, because it's beautiful and foily, and I love Milik. He's in here just because I love him. This could totally be a deck of him being the commander. But he's in here because we can play with the top card of our library revealed, which is fantastic because that helps us have a little bit of knowledge on what Narset is going to hit. And if we don't like it, if we don't like the top card, we can always play a draw spell and draw it. Or somehow get rid of it, so that we don't catch it on Narset's ability. And of course, if it's an instant or sorcery, we can play it and then copy it, which is awesome. So, really great utility card for that. Then we have a common creature, believe it or not, Student of Ojutai, a 2/4 for 4. He's in here because whenever we cast a non-creature spell, we gain 2 life. And there's a lot of spells going off, which means that's a lot of life that we can potentially gain. So he's a great utility card that gives us some extra life, and he's pretty nice. And we have a single Eldrazi, Deep Fathom Skulker. Whenever a creature that we control deals combat damage to a player, we may draw a card. That's nice, but it's mostly in here for the ability to make another creature unblockable. For 3 and a colorless, of which we have a few sources in the mana base. We can make something unblockable, and it's always going to be Narset. There's a lot in here to make Narset have evasion, or just make her straight up unblockable, because she's a 3/2 with first strike, but once people start getting their big creatures out, it doesn't matter, she's gonna die pretty easy. She does have hexproof, which is nice, but making her unblockable is the dream. So we have that nice card in there that can keep making things unblockable. And gives us card draw. So next, let's go through the enchantments, of which we have a fair amount. Enchantments are non-creature spells, so of course we can cast them off Narset in our second main phase. So the first one is Levitation. Creatures you control have flying. That is, of course, to give Narset flying. It doesn't make her strictly unblockable, but it flies over a lot of things. So that's nice. We then have Monastery Siege, which is a great way to filter through our deck. Allows us to draw an extra card, and then discard a card. So we're mostly going to choose the cons. The Dragons option is nice against certain decks, but in general, the cons option is what we want. Jeskai Ascendancy. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Untap those creatures. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may draw a card and then discard a card. So, it's not super helpful, but it can buff up Narset, and it can give her pseudo-vigilance. Because if we cast spells off of her in our second main phase, or even during the attack phase, she'll untap. So, that's useful, and of course the ability to loot through our deck is nice too. Sigil of the Empty Throne. We have a lot of enchantments, so this will fire off nicely if we have, if we get this out. We get a 4/4 White Angel token with flying when we cast an enchantment, so attacking obviously isn't something that happens, mass attacking we don't really do, but this is a nice way to get some easy creatures without pouring them into the deck. They're just tokens. That's a fun card. Sphinx's Tutelage. Shouldn't even have to explain this. We're in a deck that draws a lot of cards. Milling out our opponent is an alternate win condition. Yeah, whenever you draw a card, an opponent puts the top 2 cards of their library into their graveyard. If they're both non-land cards of the same that share a color, then they repeat the process. So, nice little enchantment card to have. Helps with our enchantments, and can mill out our opponents. Jace's Sanctum. Instants and sorceries cost 1 less to cast. Since we're casting a lot of things off of Narset, we have a lot of expensive instants and sorceries. Occasionally those will end up in our hand. This will help us, this will help take some of the burden off. And also, whenever we cast one, we get to scry one, which again will help filter cards that Narset can get off. If we see a land on top, we might want to put it on the bottom if we play an instant before an attack. So, very useful. Myth Realized can get huge in this deck. It's a 1-cost enchantment. Whenever we cast a non-creature spell, put a counter on it. Pay 1 white, turn it into a creature until end of turn, with power and toughness equal to the number of counters. That's just value in this deck. It's crazy. Tricks of the Trade. If we get this on Narset, it's pretty much game over. We'll have a 5/2 first strike hexproof unblockable. So yeah, it's a common, but it does work. I was playing a 1v1 game with my girlfriend, as soon as I got this on the Narset, like, it was just downhill from there for her. Gift of Immortality. When enchanted creature dies, return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control. Return Gift of Immortality to the battlefield attached to that creature at the beginning of the next end step. So, if we do lose Narset in combat, and this is attached to her, we get her back, and we can potentially, or no, we get to put this card back onto her at the beginning of the next end step. And of course, between the time where the creature dies and the enchantment comes back, there's a chance for removal. But oh wait, she's hexproof. So, pretty much this card just reads target creature is indestructible. Oh. And of course, we do have indestructibility as well. Enchanted creature, enchanted permanent has indestructible. We're going to be enchanting Narset. Nice and cheap. Faith's Fetters, just a good enchantment. We gain 4 life when it comes into play. The enchanted permanent can't activate its abilities, lesser mana abilities, and it can't attack or block. So, yeah, shuts down cool creatures, shuts down enchantments or artifacts if they're not mana abilities, so nice card. Then Fervor, creatures you control have haste. The idea is to get this down before Narset comes out. It's nice to be able to attack immediately, but even if she dies a couple times and you have to bring her back, it's nice to have this out so she can just start doing work. So that's it for the enchantments. Let's move on to sorcery. Now I do have more sorceries than instants, which is unfortunate, but a lot of the sorceries are just better. So we have more evasion. Ghost form. Up to 2 target creatures are unblockable this turn. Usually we'll just be targeting Narset, but if we have another good creature around, that can't hurt either. Fury of the Horde is a bomb. Costs 7, but we're going to be casting it for free, of course. Untap all creatures that attacked this turn. After this main phase, there is an additional combat phase, followed by an additional main phase. So that's 8 cards over the course of the turn that you get to exile and play for free with Narset. This combination is just broken. And then extra turns. Part the Water Veil. Take an extra turn. Exile this card. I'm gonna get the other extra turn cards up here if I have any. Okay, I just have 2. The other one is Temporal Trespass. And of course, if we don't cast stuff from Narset, it does have Delve, so we can still reasonably cast it. Because of course, lots of instants and sorceries will go to our graveyard. Okay, Howl of the Horde. Copies our next instant or sorcery spell. And if we attacked with a creature this turn, you can copy it an additional time. So ideally, we attack with Narset, we exile cards. In our second main phase, we play Howl of the Horde, and then we cast an instant or sorcery that was exiled with Narset. That way, we do get the raid trigger, and we get to copy it. We have to get to have 3 different copies of it. That's the dream. Epic Experiment. Blue, red, and X. To exile the top X cards of our library. For each instant and sorcery with converted mana cost X or less among them, you may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Then put all cards exiled this way that weren't cast into your graveyard. So, similar to Narset, I suppose, except we do have to pay into X. Still, can be crazy. We can end up casting a lot of things if we have a pretty good value for X. Which, another thing about this deck is that there's a lot of mana-producing artifacts. I so maybe I have less mana producing artifacts than a lot of decks, but I tried to put more in so that we can cast them off Narset, because we can't cast land off of Narset, but we can cast artifacts for free. So putting down some mana rocks for free is nice. Alright, now we have Covenant of Mines. Reveal the top 3 cards of your library. Target opponent may choose to put those cards into your hand. If he or she does not, put those cards into your graveyard and draw 5 cards. So either way, we win. We either get 3 cards, or we get 5 cards, and some stuff in our graveyard to fuel our delve cards, so some nice stuff. And the potential for card draw for Sphinx's Tutelage and stuff like that. Volcanic Vision. Return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. Volcanic Vision deals damage equal to that card's converted mana cost to each creature your opponents control. Exile Volcanic Vision. As you've seen, we have some high cost things like Temporal Trespass that costs 11. If that somehow ends up in our graveyard instead of being exiled, then that's great. We also have some other high cost cards. I mean, Volcanic Vision itself costs 7. Fury of the Horde was 7, so we can discard as a board wipe in most cases. And of course will be cast for free. End Hostilities, another board wipe. Destroy all creatures and all permanents attached to all creatures. Of course, if we have Narset indestructible, then that's great. If not, then who cares? We're not a heavy creature-based deck, so our opponent is probably suffering more than we are, even if we have to destroy Narset. Mizzium Mortars deals 4 damage to a creature we don't control. If it's in our hand, we can pay the overload cost. Deal 4 damage to every creature we don't control. Ponder, just 1 mana to resort the top 3 cards of our library, and if we don't like them, we can shuffle, then we draw a card. So, nice little cantrip. Blast of Genius can be pretty brutal. Choose target creature or player, draw 3 cards, then discard a card. Blast of Genius deals damage equal to the discarded card's converted mana cost to that creature or player. One time I discarded Temporal Trespass and did 11 damage to somebody, so it works. Interpret the Signs. Scry 3, then reveal the top card of your library. Draw cards equal to that card's converted mana cost. Again, we have some high mana cost cards, and we also have Sphinx's Tutelage and Niv Mizzet, other cards that benefit from card draw. So we can draw a lot of cards with Interpret the Signs and deal a lot of damage. Planar Outburst, another destroy all creatures, all non-land creatures, but in general, the whole non-land part is irrelevant. Spite of Mogus is 1 mana, but it deals damage to a creature equal to the number of instant and sorcery cards in our graveyard, then we scry 1. That number will probably be pretty high, so for 1 mana, we don't mind casting this out of our hand. Profound Journey. Return target permanent card from your graveyard to the battlefield, and it has Rebound. We don't have many creatures, but we do have plenty of enchantments as well. Who knows if planeswalkers or lands or anything else will end up in the graveyard. That's cool. Treasure Cruise. Draw 3 cards. That's Delve. Can't complain. Archangel's Light. You gain 2 life for each card in your graveyard, then shuffle your graveyard into your library. Since we do end up drawing and playing a lot of cards, we can get a lot of stuff in the yard, and we don't want to mill ourselves out on accident. So this 1 protects against that, and 2 gains us a lot of life. Ugin's Insight. Scry X, where X is the highest conversion mana cost among permanents you control. Then draw 3 cards. Narset is 6 mana. That's scry 3, scry 6, draw 3. That sounds good to me. Enter the infinite. Draw cards equal to the number of cards in your library. Then put a card from your hand on top of your library. You have no maximum hand size until your next turn. That's obviously a game finisher. If you're not ending the game, that card should not be played. This is in here for partially for its effect and partially for some of the cards that deal damage based on mana cost. 12 is about as high as it gets, so yeah. And of course, if Div Mizzet is out, we can just win by drawing cards equal to our library. So, yeah. Our last one is Roiling Waters. Return up to 2 target creatures your opponents control to their owner's hands. Target player draws 2 cards. Just unsummon and draw 2. So, nice card to have around. Now we're on to our instants. First we have Rite of Undoing. As Delve, we return a non-land permanent we control and one that we don't control to their owner's hands. We have plenty of cheap mana rocks and stuff like that that we can return, so this doesn't really hurt us too much. But it's mostly temporary removal for something our opponents have. Warleader's Helix deals 4 damage to target creature or player. We gain 4 life. So that's nice to have, especially to cast for free. And it's foil promo card. Love that lightning. Love it. Gideon's Phalanx. A normally unplayable card, but fantastic in this. If we can cast it for free, we're casting a 7 mana spell for free that gives us 4 2/2 White Knight creature tokens with Vigilance. And more than likely we will have Spell Mastery, which means our creatures will gain Indestructible. So if Narset is not already indestructible, we can cast this during combat off of her ability, and she will become indestructible. So, great. Cyclonic Rift. This is Commander. We need Cyclonic Rift. We're playing blue. Overload. Send everything back. You know the drill. Flying Crane Technique. Untap all creatures you control. They gain flying and double strike until end of turn. So, makes Narset deal extra damage. Gives her evasion. Gives her pseudo-vigilance. Can't complain. Thunderous Wrath. It's nice if we draw it. It's nice if we cast it off of Narset. Can't complain. It's not the most amazing card, but 5 damage for 0 or for 1 mana guaranteed is pretty good. I mean, it's not guaranteed. If we draw it off a draw spell, it kind of sucks, but whatever. Jeskai Charm. For 1 blue, 1 red, and 1 white, we get to choose one of the following 3. Put target creature on top of its owner's library. Jeskai Charm deals 4 damage to target opponent. Creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain lifelink until end of turn. We'll probably be doing one of the top 2. I can't imagine doing the bottom one, but it's possible. If we give Narset double strike as well, maybe it's worth it. Search your library for an instant card with converted mana cost 3. Reveal it and put it into your hand. Then repeat this process for instant cards with converted mana cost 2 and 1. Then shuffle. So Firemind's Foresight. Not the best card in the deck because we don't have a ton of cheap instants like that. I don't think we have any 1 cost. And we only have a couple that are 2 or 3. Cyclonic Rift would be good. Jeskai Charm. And Izzet Charm are the only ones. There's like 3 cards we can get with it, but those are good cards. And I think it's worth it if we cast it for free. It might be one that I cut unless I find more high impact but low cost instants. So, that one's thinking about it. Fall of the Gavel. It's a counter spell, and we gain 5 life. especially if we're already gaining life off of the student devoted die. Wild Ricochet. We may choose new targets for target instant or sorcery, then copy that spell. Choose new targets for the copy. I like this card because it's versatile. We can use it on our own spell, or we can use it on an opponent's spell. So, I like the versatility of it. Dig Through Time. You know what this does. It has Delve, and then we can look at the top 7 cards of the library, put 2 of them into your hand, the rest on the bottom of your library. Is it Charm? You can choose one of 3. Counter target non-creature spell, unless it's controller base 2. Or deal 2 damage to target creature, or draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards. This one's definitely situational. If we get it off of Narset, we probably want the last one. Depending on if they have some small creatures, maybe the second one, but I think in general, option 3, draw 2 cards and discard 2 cards is what we want. If it's in our hand, then the first option could be useful depending. Banishing Stroke has cost 6, but has Miracle for 1. Put target artifact, creature, or enchantment on the bottom of its owner's library. So some removal. Just in case. Alright, on to the Planeswalkers. We have 4. Our first one is Sarkon the Dragon Speaker. He can become a 4/4 dragon. He can deal 4 damage to a creature, and we can also get an emblem where we draw 2 additional cards on our draw step and then discard our hand at the end. I'm still not sure if that's ideal in this deck. I think since most of our stuff gets played off of Narset, it is fine. I haven't gotten to that point with him yet, but it could be interesting. We then have Chandra Pyromaster. She can deal damage to a player and a creature, and that creature can't block, so that gives Narset some evasion. You can also exile the top card of our library and play it, which could be useful, especially if we scry and know what's on there. Our ultimate, we can exile the top 10 cards of our library, choose an instant or sorcery from those, and copy it 3 times. Cast them for free. So that's nice too. Chase, Architect of Thought. He can weaken our opponent's creatures. He can Factor Fiction or whatever it's called for his middle ability. And then we can tutor everybody's library for a non-land card and play that card for free. So of course we have some awesome high cost spells that we can cast, and we can pretty much just cast our opponent's best spell. So some nice value there. And then we have Ugin, who is just straight up value. If we can cast him for free off of Narset, that's just amazing. Can deal 3 damage to a creature or player, exiles colored permanents, and then of course the ultimate, where we gain 7 life, draw 7 cards, put 7 permanents onto the battlefield. His ultimate is not so good for us. We do have a fair amount of enchantments and lots of artifacts and land, but I just don't think his ultimate is as impactful as his first 2 abilities in this deck. Okay, on to the artifacts, and then we'll hit land, and then we'll be done. So we'll go over some of the utility cards first, and then the 7 mana rocks. Ghoulcaller's Bell. Tap it. Each player puts the top card of his or her library into his or her graveyard. This is great if we know what card is on top, or if Melik has revealed the card or something like that. If it's something that we don't want to draw or don't want to play off of Narset, or can't play off of her, then we just put it in the graveyard. Especially if it's a card that helps us in the graveyard. It's 1 mana, nice to get it out on turn 1 if we can, and then just start doing work. Also, it slowly helps with the mill strategy, with Sphinx's tutelage. Dragon of Thought. Costs 5 mana. Enters the battlefield at 3 charge counters. Can pay 2 and tap it to put a counter on it. And pay 2 and tap it to remove a counter from it and draw a card. So, just some extra card draw. If we can cast this for free, then that's even better. Illusionist Bracers. Whenever an ability of an equipped creature is activated, if it isn't a mana ability, copy that ability. You may choose new targets for the copy. If I remember right, putting this on, or if I remember right, this has to be an activated ability, not a triggered ability. So it doesn't work on Narset, but works nicely on Niv Mizzet. We can draw 2 cards. With Arcanus, we can draw 3 cards. Yeah, make 2 things unblockable. It's not the most impactful card in this deck by any means, but it can potentially help us out. And it's cheap. Now this is an interesting card. Mirror of Fate. We can tap it and sacrifice it to choose up to 7 face-up exiled cards you own. Exile all the cards from your library, then put the chosen cards on top of your library. So basically, we get to pick some cards we have from exile and turn that into our library. I was looking for cards that pulls things out of exile because we end up having a lot. Between all of our delve cards and the fact that anything not played with Narset's ability stays exiled, we end up having a lot of exiled cards. So if we need a game finisher and some of our bombs are in exile, we just turn our deck into our 7 best cards. So if our best cards don't do any good in the graveyard, exiling them with delve can be nice because we can just get them back with Mirror of Fate. So it's interesting, but we definitely only do it as a game finisher. And now our mana rocks, we have Izzet Signet, Boros Signet, Azorius Signet, Azorius Cluestone, Boros Cluestone, Izzet Cluestone, and Jeskai Banner. Nothing too out of the ordinary. No, I don't have a Soul Ring or any of the Commander staple mana rocks. I probably will eventually, but right now I don't. Now for our lands, we have... oh gosh, I don't have them. I don't have my basics sorted. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 islands. 1, 2, 3 mountains, and 1 plains. So not a ton of basics. That's because we have a ton of non-basics. So if we start out with the Wedge land, of course, for Jeskai. The Mystic Monastery. Easy auto-include. Taps for any of the Jeskai colors. Floodplain is the poor man's fetch land. I do have a flooded strand, but I don't really... fetch lands are worth more to me at the moment as trade fodder, so I tend to trade them away. I just don't play Modern competitively enough to make it worth buying playsets of $20 cards, so I like trading them for other stuff. So, the poor man's fetch land that costs like less than 50 cents. It comes in tapped, and then you can sacrifice it and tap it and sacrifice it to search for a plains or island, put it on the battlefield. So basically, while a fetch land comes in untapped and you have to pay a life, this just sets you back a turn. So it's not terrible, but it's not great. Glacial Fortress taps for white or blue, comes in tapped unless you can draw a plains or an island. So sometimes comes in tapped, sometimes not. Port Town, one of the new Shadowlands. We can reveal a plains or island from our hand. If we don't, Port Town enters the battlefield tapped. Taps for blue or white. Hollowed Fountain, Shockland. I just recently started acquiring a few Shocklands. Slowly work my way up to those fetch lands, starting with the Shocks. So, it's a plains and island, so we can fetch it with our poor man's fetch land. And it counts as a plains or island for those couple cards that mattered. This basically taps for blue or white. We pay 2 life to have it come in untapped, otherwise it enters tapped. We have the Temple of Enlightenment, comes in tapped. We get to scry 1. The Temple of Triumph, same thing for red and white. And I don't have the Temple of Enlightenment, the red-blue, because it's a little more expensive than these, so I'll get it eventually. Then we have the Cons, dual lands that come in tapped and we gain a life. So we have Tranquil Clove, Swiftwater Cliffs, and Windscarred Crag. We have the Ravnica bounce lands, Azorius Chancery. And of course these come in tapped. We return a land to our hand, but then next turn they tap for 2 mana. So we have Azorius Chancery, Is It Boiler Works, and Boros Garrison. Then we have the Guild Gates, Azorius Guild Gate, Is It Guild Gate, and Boros Guild Gate. Then we have a Kabira Crossroads, just taps for white, but we gain 2 life. Not sure if I want to keep this card in here, but it's whatever. It's in here for now. Then we have the Colorless Sources. We have Blighted Gorge, adds a colorless, and we can pay 4 in red and tap it, and sacrifice it, deal 2 damage to a creature or player. Could be useful. And Blighted Cataract, which is the same, but we pay 5 in a blue, and sacrifice it and tap it to draw 2 cards. So they provide us colorless when we need it, and then they provide utility later. Mage Ring Network also adds a colorless, and we can put a storage counter on it to later remove the storage counters to add to our mana pool. So that's a nice utility. Prov Spires of Order adds a colorless. Pay 4 a blue and a white and tap it to prevent all damage from a source of our choice this turn. In case there's some crazy burn spell or crazy big creature going in or something, we can possibly prevent that damage. So guys, that is all the cards in my Narset Enlightened Master EDH/Commander deck. Only took 35 minutes to go through it. I hope that you liked today's video. I know that my deck is not perfect. I don't really play Commander very much, but I want to get started. It's just been a process of building my decks. I also have a Dagottar the Adamant deck, although, to be honest, making an Unoffensive deck would also, Unoffensive the Foremost would also work, but I feel like she's overused compared to Dagottar, so Dagottar it is. If you guys would like to see a deck tech for my Dagottar deck, let me know and I can make a similar video to this one for him. Yeah, anyways, as I was saying, leave any suggestions in the comments for this deck. And of course, for videos that you want to see in the future, whether magic related or otherwise. Always down to try new things. I hope that you guys have a nice day or a nice night, whatever time it may be today that you're watching this. I hope you have a wonderful day. Sleep well. Stay chill. And like and subscribe and comment, of course. I like talking to you guys. So be sure to comment below and follow me on all the social medias and all that jazz that are on the bottom or in the description. I like staying connected and talking and being part of this community. So thank you guys for being awesome. I will see you in the next video. Bye.